Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome to SDGC's live show for February 6th, 2020. I'm Justin. I am joined by Derek,
Hello, everybody.
Reb,
What's that?
and Jeff.
Tired.
Overly lit.
Oh, Jeff! Oh my God!
Yeah, Jeff, you seem real tired.
Oh my God, Jeff!
Sleepy
I'm
boy.
just tired of life. I just need a break.
Oh,
Jeff!
It's fine though. Like, really, my life's not bad, but I'm just tired. I would just like some sleep.
Tired is an eternal mood, though. I do get that.
Yeah, trust me, I know.
We live in the tired age.
I hope everybody listening is doing well tonight. I hope everybody in chat is having a good time. And we're going to talk about some games in the game industry tonight. So just to start off, a little fun. Let's just go through what we've been playing. Who wants to start us off? Does anybody have anything particularly exciting that they've been playing they want to talk about?
I have two things, if you'll indulge me.
Of course,
One
go
of them
ahead.
I can't talk a lot about, though.
Okay, go ahead, though.
So I can say that I have this. I was given an early key for... Some of you have maybe seen me yelling on Twitter lately about this game called The Longing. And I can kind of plug as much of it as public knowledge. The premise of the game is that there's this king, like he's this giant, like rock mountain king, whatever. He's like deep underground. And he, at the start of the game, he creates you, and you're this little tiny shade, like in his hand. Like it looks like a golem from Lord of the Rings, but like covered in like charcoal or soot or something, and these huge like yellow eyes. And he says, "Hey, like I'm the king down here, but I don't have, I've run out of my strength, and so I'm gonna sleep for 400 days. And at the end of 400 days, I need you to wake me up. And then I will come into my power, and I will end all longing and wanting forever." And then he goes to sleep. And so you're just at the bottom of this mountain, and the king's asleep for 400 days, and there's a clock on the top of your screen, and it starts ticking down, 400 real-time days. And the clock keeps going, even when you're not playing the game. So if you close it, you open it up again 2 days later, 2 more days have passed. And you can just kind of go. So he walks really slowly. He walks at like this shuffle old man pace. You have, when he puts you down, you're kind of like right next to your little hovel, which is your hole. When you go in there, you got like a couple books on a bookshelf, like a piece of charcoal and like a piece of paper so you can draw some pictures if you want, and then like an armchair. And that's basically, and an hourglass counting down the time. And that's basically all you have. So you can do a lot of different things. You can just sit and do nothing, and then 400 days later, open up the game and wake him up if you feel like. Or you can go out and explore the system of caves in the palace, and you can find things to make your little hovel cozier. So like you can find a whole bunch of little books, and you can find like decorations like curtains and rugs and things. And the cozier you make it, the faster time passes while you're in it. And so I got to a point where every 1 second while I was in my little hole was 10 seconds. So if I closed the game out while I was in there and reopened it like 1 day later, a couple days had passed. And so that's one thing that happens. And then the other thing that happens is as you're exploring, the shade will talk to himself, and you also might encounter certain things throughout the kingdom that give you a hint that there's maybe something else going on here. And you don't really know what it is. There's kind of a worrisomeness to the fact that the king is saying he's going to end all longing. Like, you don't really know what that means.
Sounds a little ominous.
It's a little ominous, right? And so the Shade maybe has an idea that he wants to try to get... He might consider wanting to get up to the surface, but he's not sure because he's the king's loyal servant. And so that's the game. That's the longing. I was given the game 2 months in advance, and there are multiple endings. And I am desperate to talk about this game, but I have already finished it. I have already finished one ending, and I still have 1 month to go before I can talk about this game, because they gave everybody 2 months so they could get as far as they wanted before they did reviews. I'm not doing a review, but I am fucking desperate to talk about this game, and I think it is hilarious the developers have made this fucking meta game where, like, now I am longing to talk about this game, but I have to wait 30 days.
Is this the game that you tweeted about a few days? You said there's a game that you wanted to talk about in like a month.
Yeah,
Okay.
There are some really... I think it is incredible that a game has done something with the mechanic, with the verb wait. It has turned wait... Like, time is a mechanic in a lot of games, right? Like, you have to do things very quickly. I have never played a game before that wants you to do things really fucking slowly. Or you have to just be patient and
Unless
wait.
it's a mobile game where everything's time games.
Right, yeah. But no, it is incredible. It is very much like I have a lot of I've had a lot of years where early in the year I've just run across like an indie darling and fallen in love with it, and The Longing is absolutely my indie darling for the beginning of this year. So here in a month, I will finally get to come on the show, and I will just not shut up about how fucking cool this game is and spoil the whole damn thing for you, and it's gonna be great.
That sounds really cool. What platforms is it on?
It's just on PC right now. It's on Steam.
Okay.
The other game I wanted to talk about is Temtem, which I can talk a lot about.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yes.
Have any of y'all played Temtem yet?
I have not.
I
I
have not.
haven't, but my fiance's 17-year-old brother is playing it. He's like
Okay.
he's a big Pokemon nerd, so he
I
was talking about this Pokemon like clone or whatever that he was playing, and I was like,
Yeah.
I've never heard of this, and then Reb's like Temtem, and I'm like,
Temtem!
oh,
So
yeah.
here's a little American-centric narrative for you to kind of explain how I feel about Temtem. Last year in May, I went to the UK, and I had never been outside. I had never been to the UK before. And I very quickly got a sense that being in the UK was like being an alternate universe America. Like, everything was almost the same, but not quite. Like, the cars are on the wrong side of the road. That's sort of the obvious thing. The signs were just slightly different. Like, instead of, you know, apartment for rent, it would say to let. And I knew what that meant. Like, I understood it, but it was just like slightly alternate universe. The money was almost the same, but kind of different. Temtem is like alternate universe Pokemon. I instinctively understand everything that I need to do, but it's all just sort of couched in different language, and the Pokemon are not the same, and everything is very different. There are a few things that I like that Temtem does that I think are fascinating. It gets rid of certain mechanics in Pokemon and replaces them with different ones I think are better. All battles are double battles, which I think adds like different strategies to it. Instead of having every move having PP, it gives you a stamina bar, and every move takes stamina and a little bit regenerates each turn. So it's more short-term move management than long-term move management. It's harder, just in general. The monsters are cuter, but I think they have way less personal identity than Pokemon do. But it's very, and it's an MMO. So you're constantly seeing other players running around. There's not really a lot you can do besides battling and trading with them so far, but it's also in early access, so I'm willing to forgive them. It's coming out on Switch in a couple months, actually. But it's very interesting. I don't know that this is going to be like a long-term substitute for Pokemon. I think a lot of people were freaking out about it, particularly because Pokemon Sword and Shield were so disappointing to so many people. Well, at least people on the internet. I think, you know, it sold like fucking a gajillion.
Yeah.
But I don't know that Temtem, like monster catching and battling RPGs are not this novel thing. Like, they've existed since, you know, Pokemon has existed. They've always been a thing. I think that's one of the reasons why Temtem has gotten traction, because of the whole thing around Sword and Shield. It's not a bad game, it's a good game. I just don't know that it's got like the staying power that some people are kind of freaking out that it might be like a replacement for Pokemon. I don't know. But yeah, that's what I'm playing.
That's
Yeah.
cool. That sounds really cool. Yeah, I've heard a lot of buzz around Temtem. I hadn't obviously I haven't played it myself, but it'll be it'll be interesting because, you know, it's made by a small team. It's in early access. It'll be neat to see how it evolves over time. And
evolves.
I know they're planning on bringing it to, you know, PlayStation and Xbox, which I think will be really interesting to see if it gains traction there. Because that places it kind of interestingly against Pokemon.
Yeah, Bronson, it is an early access, but it's like fine. It's like perfectly playable. It also, because it's more difficult, it takes a lot longer to do anything. Like, my Temtems are all level 15, and I've been playing for a week, and I haven't been playing a ton. I've been playing other games too, but like, it is a little bit more of a challenge, and so I've come across some areas already where, like, it's a building with a little sign that says work in progress. But I think, like, unlike a lot of other early access games, this is a very, very playable early access game. Like, it's not, if there's bugs, I haven't run into any. It's solid and it's interesting. And it's more like,
from what I've heard, it's more like it's not content complete, but what is there is relatively polished.
Yes, I think that's a very good way to put it. It does feel a little bit grindy. I haven't even got to breeding yet. Yeah, it is a little bit grindy. That's kind of why honestly, it's Pokemon for the people that are pissed off that Pokemon's too easy. And you know what? Fine.
Pokemon for real gamers.
Yeah, for real gamers. But I don't know, it's cute and soft and I like it, but yeah. I'm more excited for the Pokemon DLC this year than I am for Temtem.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Reb.
Yeah.
Jeff, do you want to fill us in on what you have been playing lately?
I will. I'm gonna try to find an angle that doesn't bore anyone because I feel like most people don't care about what I'm playing. I've played Gran Turismo Sport on and off since it came out in 2017. I'm a pretty big racing guy. I buy Forza every year. The main motorsport series, Forza Horizon. Used to buy Need for Speed back when it was good. The thing about racing games is online is always a shit show. It's either the net code. I mean, you can imagine you're talking fractions of a second making a difference, and hit detection is very important. And then also just the people that you play with. A lot of online games you can just kind of ignore other people, but when you're racing 15 cars through a tight corner, like you always have the one dude from that I don't know, the Doom or Polygon videos where like he just comes barreling down like a missile and just slams into 5 other cars and causes this massive pileup.
That's
And
me.
like,
That's me.
yeah, and it's like it's fine, right? Like not everybody's good at these games, and I'm happy that they could do that offline. But it's frustrating when you're just trying to have like a nice clean race and like you're doing good and you're on the final lap, and then some guy just comes in and destroys you. So the thing, Gran Turismo Sport has done really well, and I've heard about this. I didn't want to dip my toes into the online until now, which is what I finally started doing the last week. They have 2 videos that you have to watch before you can even play. It's called the sport mode. There's like a regular online mode, which is just lobbies. It's kind of for fun. Sport, I guess, think of it as like a ranked mode. Before you can even play, you have to watch these 2 videos before it's locked down. It's about racing etiquette, and it explains. It's very calmly explained. Like I love it. It's almost like a David Attenborough documentary. It's like racing should be fun. Racing should be clean. Drive to look good. Don't drive to look bad. If you see other people driving bad, avoid those people and drive around them.
God,
and
I
it's-
love forcing gamers to sit through an etiquette class
Yeah.
before they're allowed to go online.
This is like a meta commentary on the internet.
Yeah.
Use the internet to be nice. Don't use the internet to be mean.
Oh,
If you see other people
exactly.
using the internet to be mean, avoid them.
But
So good.
and so the videos are only a few minutes long each, but they just lay out like how you should drive. And the amazing thing is they seem to have worked because after
What?
after like an hour, maybe 5 or 10 races, so you have 2 different ratings. You have like your driver rating, which is based on how well you place in the races, so that's like your skill ranking, and you have a sport rating. The game has an algorithm that decides whether you're at fault for penalties when you initiate contact with other cars, or you kind of nudge people off the track into a corner, something like that. So your sport rating goes down if you drive inconsiderately, and if you drive considerately, it goes up.
Because
And it
you're
I
a
goes
think
up
the
bad
best thing in the world
sport.
is Jeff describing this with the extremely polite Canadian veneer over.
So yeah, after like an hour, after 5 or 10 races, like I had a good sport rating. I was being placed in matches with other people, and like everyone just drives nicely. Everyone drives in a single file line. Like I've probably played 20 or 30 races now in the last week. People like
Aren't you
stay out
supposed
of
to
my
try
range.
to pass people in
Is this a
racing
race,
games
or
that
is
everyone's
this-
just like
Passing
too
etiquette,
polite?
though.
It's like yeah, like you're allowed to pass people, but you're not supposed to like swerve and weave in and out to block them from passing you. Like you can kind of take the corner and not let, but like you're not supposed to intentionally block them. Like if you're on a straightaway and someone's trying to pass you on the right, the sport etiquette of racing, like in real life too, like dictates that you let them pass you.
God, I'd be so bad at this game. I'm so bad at racing games. It's every single time I try to play a racing game, I just immediately spin out. No matter
But you
what I
drive in
do,
a
I
single
cannot
file.
drive in a straight line in a racing game.
It's-
I'm so bad. So like, there's no way I'd be able to.
It's definitely a
Last.
muscle memory thing. Like, you just have it's all about braking and when
What
you're
part of
braking.
this is fun?
Yeah.
I need to know. I say with kindness.
It's fun to go fast.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like I don't know, I don't play a lot of roguelikes, but I imagine it's like a time attack thing, or it's like there's a weird satisfaction from just running the same lap over and over and just trying to shave fractions of a second off your time. Like it's like a perfectionist thing where it's like that one corner I took too wide, and if I just cut a half inch more on the corner, like I don't know. It's definitely for a certain kind of person. But anyways, what I wanted to say is that I was just super impressed with how they managed to cultivate a really good, clean online community. There's all these messages that you can give to people beforehand. You press square to just bring up like a bunch of preset messages, and they're all very positive. It's like, have a good race, and they've got different languages. So they've got messages in Spanish or English or French and stuff like that. So it's like, it's all pre-programmed,
Oh.
so like everything, like before every race, everyone's just spamming like really positive comments, and there's no text chat. So I don't have anyone tell me to like go fuck off and play Pokemon or something like that. Like, yeah, I don't know. It's been a really good experience, and I've been pleasantly surprised.
Wholesome gaming, wholesome gaming.
I want every multiplayer game to have this. Like,
Yeah.
I want the next Call of Duty to be like, all right, guys, we need to talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, good shooting, everyone.
Spawn camping is
murdering.
mean.
Let's get those Nazis.
Derek, Jeff, was that it? Was it just GT Sport you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, that's the only thing I want to talk about. I've been playing Sims, but everyone who follows me on Twitter is sick of me tweeting about Sims. Sims
Jeff,
is
can
awesome.
you actually, sorry, really quick, can
Yeah.
you, I had to miss the last Sims SDGC stream. Can you give me a quick
I
update?
missed it. I missed
Yeah,
the
what
second one
happened?
too, and I haven't watched the.
So-
I haven't
Give
All
us
I
watched.
a
know
quick
is I'm
update on how
old.
they're doing.
Unfortunately, for anyone who doesn't know, I created an SDGC house in The Sims 4, where I created all 8 of us. The first stream was pretty crazy. I was still trying to figure out the mechanics. So unfortunately, a lot of the crazy stuff happened in between streams when I was just trying to do a little bit of housekeeping. I had a house party, and Maddie tried to fix a stereo that was malfunctioning, and it electrocuted him, and he died.
Oh, God.
And apparently you could plead with death for someone's life, but I didn't know this. So I kind of just stood there watching him die, and then he disappeared. And now I found out last night he haunts the house at night.
Yep.
He just floats around and cries, and then goes to bed and cries under his covers. He doesn't scare anyone. Or
That's
he
just
literally
like
made him.
me now.
He cooked some burgers on the grill and went up to bed and cried himself to sleep.
Is
And I
Derek
also
still
heard
old?
more.
me.
Maddie has the most relatable ghost.
Yeah.
Is Derek still old?
No, I used the cheat to reverse age
Okay.
Derek because it wasn't fair. I wasn't ready to say goodbye to Derek.
Less than
But
10
we were
minutes
fine
into the
with saying
first
goodbye to
stream.
Maddie.
Yeah, well, Maddie did that was his time, right? I feel like that was his time. Nature so
Derek just blew out some candles on a birthday cake and got old. Maddie fiddled with technology, and that
Yeah,
was a mistake.
should have known better. I love.
So-
I'm 80 years old, but it was Maddie's time.
That's amazing.
I like how you said it was his time when he got electrocuted by a stereo. Like,
Yeah.
Video games are good.
so is that the full breakdown of what's
Was
up in
there
the
a cat?
SDG Sims
Was there a
house?
cat?
Maddie's the cat now.
Oh yeah, Maddie's a cat. He was a kitten, now he's a full-grown cat. And he's really smelly. And he's been smelly for 2 days. He got flies buzzing around him like little stink lines. And his litter box is clean, so I looked it up, and apparently the cats just get really smelly sometimes. 'Cause they're supposed to clean themselves, but he didn't. So I literally had to construct a vet clinic on a separate lot, which took me an hour. And I'm trying to figure out how to hire people and take this Maddie cat, to the vet, so it doesn't stink anymore. Because it leaves puddles around the house too. I think it's pissing on the floor.
Oh my
Because Zach is
god.
mopping up puddles every 5 minutes.
What the
Wherever the
fuck?
cat goes.
Maddie?
I don't know. I really don't know. So, anyways, tune in. There'll hopefully be one more stream next week before I go on vacation. So make sure you tune in.
Oh,
To watch Maddie the cat pee everywhere and Derek get really old.
that's
Good
And the rest of
content.
us have... And Justin be an astronaut.
Yeah.
My sim was barely holding it together. Like, astronaut training was not being kind to my
Justin
sim.
seems to have the worst hours. Like, I swear he leaves before everyone and gets home after everyone. And his hunger and energy meters are just always at empty.
I assume he goes to the moon and back every day. Like,
Yeah.
that has to be what being an astronaut
that is
is,
what
We
right?
that
don't get on the
means-
bus or get into our little cars. He just, opens the door to his rocket ship,
Yeah.
goes in, closes it, flies
yeah.
off.
He goes to the moon. He
Done.
mines in space, right?
Yeah.
And brings back moon rocks.
Mhm.
That's how science works.
All right, Derek,
Yeah.
what have you been playing?
So I have not had a whole lot of personal time in my life recently. Been very, very busy. But I have still kept time to stream. And I started last week and continued this week. I've been playing Mass Effect 3, which has been a long time. I mean, I beat that game before even the fixed ending, whatever that means, comes out.
Mm-hmm.
I never touched any of the DLC. I never went back to see what they changed. So it's been a long time, and I'm really excited to see the stuff that I missed. And I'm realizing that we all did that game dirty. It's actually fucking incredible.
No, it rules. It
Yeah.
rules. I
It's a good game.
love that game.
I turned a man into Fruit Punch, and that's really just incredible. Jeff,
Derek,
Fantastic.
what did you think about it when it came out? Like you said, because I played it
I-
after the ending was fixed.
I
And I thought it was
remember
great.
really liking it up to the last 5 minutes. I remember it was one of my favorite games of that whole generation. Maybe one of my favorite games I'd ever played as the culmination of the Mass Effect trilogy, which I loved so much. Until those last 5 minutes. I really disliked the ending.
No.
And I was not a shithead about it.
Right, yeah.
But I really disliked that ending. And I'm curious now, I'm older, like it will be less of a teenage, like wish fulfillment fantasy of being the hero and the guy. Like, can I accept an imperfect ending? And like what has been changed? I'm really interested to go back to that as an older and I think more like artistically savvy human being. So that's been good. And then I started Control last week. I only got about 2 hours in. I'm going to play more of it tomorrow.
So good.
And I fell in love with it just immediately. It's ridiculous. It's weird.
It's captivating.
I fucking love it. It is so wild.
Excellent.
I don't know what's up with the short-haired blonde girl with the extremely wide mouth that I'm getting
I know who you're
directions
talking
from.
But
her mouth is
not
She's
to
very
spoil
high
anything,
energy.
but the wide mouth has nothing. It's not like a harbinger of evil.
No,
She
I just think it's a weird character model, but like
There's another character later on that has. How do I explain, Justin?
she's just like,
his
Which
face.
character?
His
Which
face
character
is,
are you talking about?
the security guy.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
His
He
face
does
is
look.
wrong.
There's a few
Yeah.
weird faces in that game.
I
And
like
there's some
Emily
really good
though.
ones.
I like Emily though.
I do
She's
too.
cool.
No, yeah, she's great. She's a fun character. I like her. I'm noticing constantly that her mouth is just larger enough that it bothers me.
Derek, are you still on your quest to play every Call of Duty game?
That is for the moment on
Black
hold.
Ops broke him.
Black Ops 3 did really break me. I have Infinite Warfare installed, which is the next game on the list.
That one's actually good.
And I'll do it, but I played in preparation for Doom Eternal coming out. I went back and I replayed Doom, and I don't like doing a bunch of shooters all at once, and I'm already doing a lot of shooters right now. So like I actually also I installed Neverwinter Nights. And
awesome!
I
That's a good
I
throwback.
have not got to spend much time with that, but like I'm a big Dungeons and Dragons guy. I haven't gotten to play Dungeons and Dragons in forever. I've been listening to a crap load of Critical Role now that I need like podcasts to entertain myself while I'm infinitely busy and never have free time, which has just made the D&D bug worse. So it was nice to sit down for a tiny amount of time with Neverwinter Nights and D&D it up. So
Awesome.
Cool.
So yeah, I've been kind of all over the place for somebody who has no time.
Justin, what about you?
I've just been trying to finish Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Okay.
This game doesn't end. I mentioned I feel like it's been like a month and a half I've been talking about playing this game, and like so I got it when it was on sale, bundled with all the DLC, and then 2 remasters of 2 other Assassin's Creed games, which is just the idea of going and playing 2 more Assassin's Creed games after this one is the most exhausting like thought. And the thing is, I like the same thing kind of happened to me with this and Origins. Origins I played like crazy for a couple weeks, and then I hit like the 50-hour mark and realized there was still like a third of the map I hadn't even seen, and I'm just like, nope, I'm done. Like I got everything I wanted to get out of this. I can't do it anymore. This I finished the main story, and then I finished the 3 Legacy of the First Blade episodes, and now I'm like partway through the first Fate of Atlantis DLC. I'm at like 100 hours.
Damn.
I might just be calling it in for a little while. Like, I really want to finish the Fate of Atlantis DLC. Like, the first episode takes place like in the Elysium Fields, and it is one of the most gorgeous things I've ever seen. But like the entire gameplay of it is just all the stuff that I'm very tired of after this much. Like, I really do enjoy these games, but they just hit critical mass and they're so long that I just check out. And right now I'm at a point where I just really want to play some other stuff right now. there's a couple things I've been really meaning to replay, like God of War 2018 and a couple other things. So I think like last night I kind of hit the point because I was like, okay, you know what? If I can finish episode 1 of Fate of Atlantis tonight, then I'm gonna push through. And it's been like 3 nights in a row of hoping to finish that, and I don't know how much more I have left. And I think I'm just going to. I think I just need to take a break. Like, it's one thing that always, you know, frustrates me about Ubisoft's games is because, like, I really, like, a lot of people, you know, criticize the core gameplay loop, and I do enjoy, you know, the core gameplay loop of, like, you know, clearing enemy bases and, you know, doing quests and stuff, but, like, the combat just isn't that engaging, especially once you get late game where you're super overpowered and it just is like, oh, I'm going to use this ability, and it's a long animation to do it. It's just like, okay, I hit the button combination to start an animation and then just wait instead of like actively doing it. And also, I never really cared much about the stories in the Assassin's Creed games. I'm one of the weirdos that thinks the super strange, like, old gods stuff is way more interesting than the, like, historical stories and stuff, and they're moving away from that because most people don't like it and stuff. So it's like, I just wish Ubisoft would just condense the game a little bit and make it like very dense, cool, smaller areas filled with more like unique quests, and, you know, kind of go more in depth on the characters and combat instead of just the sheer broadness, because the core game is really fun, and I think it would be truly excellent if they just reined it in a little bit.
I just want to back you up on that, Justin, real quick. I put 70 hours into Assassin's Creed Origins. It's one of my favorite games of the entire generation. I beat it, I 100%ed it, I like cleared everything. And you would think, with Odyssey being the successor to that like, to one of my favorite games of the gen, I'd be all in. I have not even thought about starting it because the idea of just clearing one of those bases and that combat, I'm like, I can't do another 100. It's even longer, it's even bigger. I can't. These games are too big.
I mean, that was also the part of the reason why I didn't jump right in on Odyssey until it was on sale for like dirt cheap. Like, I think it was on sale for $25, which isn't dirt cheap, but I also had like $15 in random PSN credit, so it's like I paid $10 with all the DLC and then 2 remasters of 2 other Assassin's Creed games.
Great.
And I'm like, all right. I mean, I got a lot for my $10.
I haven't loved an Assassin's Creed game since Ezio was the protagonist. That guy was a hunk, and I miss him.
And the thing is that also that's kind of the weird thing between Origins and Odyssey, that I really liked Bayek as the lead in Origins, and I liked the Egyptian setting a lot more. Odyssey's fun, like Cassandra's fun. She's snarky.
Cassandra also hot.
Oh yes, Cassandra is very hot, and my Cassandra has banged everything from across Greece. Like this game, it has the funniest romance system. Like, there's just every now and then a character, man or woman, doesn't matter. There'll just be a heart next to one of their dialogue options. It's like, oh, I'm gonna bang them.
Yeah.
Like, Justin, I need to know, like, is the dialogue option beside the heart like romance related dialogue, or is it literally like, hey, do you need some help? Like,
do you
putting
collect
those dishes
trading
away?
cards like in The Witcher?
You order a pizza?
It's like people are asking you for help, and you're like, you want to bang? Like, sometimes it's like part of the conversation, and sometimes it's absolutely not. Probably there's one really funny one where there's this one old lady who wanted you to make like a sex potion for her old husband who no longer could keep up with her. And so you make it, and then he's like, I'm too old. Taking that potion would kill me. So you just go and bang her, and he thanks you for it. You bang her for like 24 hours straight while he just hangs outside playing the lute and talking to random people outside. And then he's like, oh, thank you so much. And then the other really funny one.
Power to them for being open about what they want.
Yeah,
I mean, they're
sure,
Greeks.
if we're all good with it, great.
Everyone's very ancient Greek in this game. And then the other really funny one is like there is this woman that's like, yeah, my daughter is really out of line. Like, I need you to help, get her to calm down and focus up. I just banged her daughter.
Yeah.
That works.
Sure.
I feel like
What is
I feel
this
like
game?
Ubisoft noticed that BioWare the BioWare niche isn't being filled anymore for those fans of like Mass Effect and Dragon Age because they're off doing Anthem now, and they're like, people want dialogue options and they want to bang, and
People
they're like,
like
we're gonna
games where
fill
you can
this.
be extremely horny.
Yeah.
And the thing that's frustrating to me about it is there is zero nudity. Like, it's just like they just walk off screen and then come back and do like a slight adjusting their clothes animation, and like they keep referring to characters as being naked that are wearing diapers, and it's like, come on, guys, go all the way with this. Like,
We've seen video game sex scenes. It's for the best.
like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
like even just there was one time where they had like the only just like piece of information they gave me to find like this prisoner was that he was stripped naked and he had a huge penis. Those were the only descriptors, but I got there and he was wearing a diaper, and I'm like, how was I supposed to find him?
Now I don't know.
I don't know. Is this the right
Yeah.
guy? It could be the wrong guy.
I
Like, look at your
can't.
dick.
I can't see his gigantic penis to be sure. I don't know.
They said it was godlike. Come on. Like,
Look, how can
Well,
you
then we have to
identify
see
the man
this.
if you can't see his godlike penis? I
Yeah,
know
fuck.
that Martha can hear me from the other room shouting that.
and I mean, when I say this, I want equal opportunity nudity.
Absolutely.
Everybody. There's one character that like he is just a complete hedonist. And every single time you do a quest for him, you can just also bang him. Like, it doesn't matter. They just like it's like part of like how I'm playing Cassandra and his just buddy friendship. Like, it's like, all right, he tricks you into getting somebody killed, and then they bang. Like, that's just how those go. But
Great.
yeah, I think I might need to take a break from that game. I do really enjoy it. I think it's entertaining.
You
but
take
like,
a break from banging everybody in ancient Greece.
Yeah,
maybe,
it's
yeah.
Drink a
too
juice
much.
box. Get back in there.
Just rehydrate. All right.
I hope you're
so-
ready for another 100-hour Assassin's Creed game this fall, Justin.
Oh, another. Well, they keep saying that each one is like double the length of the last one. It's like, God, Ubisoft, please.
They've used some
I can't do
machine
this
learning
anymore.
to
They're
exponentially-
infinite now, right? Like they're all live services. So at this point, everyone is just infinite, and yeah.
Yeah, like
Thanks
I
to
mean,
our new game creation algorithm, the next Assassin's Creed will be twice as long as human existence.
all right. So we can talk about what we've been playing for a while, but there was a
Yeah.
lot of really big news that hit this week, and we want to tear into some of that. So kind of the first topic that we want to talk about is a couple really major voices among their series have left the studios that they have helped to pioneer. Dan Houser, one of the famous Houser brothers at Rockstar, one of the lead writers and creative directors for Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead Redemption, has left Rockstar. And Rod Ferguson, a longtime employee at Epic who moved over to Coalition with Microsoft to work on Gears 4 and 5, has left Coalition to work on to oversee the Diablo series for Blizzard. Derek,
I'm laughing because in the last like 6 or 7 months, so we've got Rob Ferguson going to Diablo. Okay, fine. But we've also got the one ESA guy, the guy who's in charge of the communications for ESA is now in charge of comms for Blizzard, and that happened like right around all the Blitzchung stuff.
And didn't Blake Ybarra from
yeah.
Xbox also go over to Blizzard right around all the
Blizzard, yeah.
Blitzchung
Blizzard
stuff?
apparently needs the fucking help.
Yeah, it's just. But I mean, so I think that's both funny and also like sort of interesting to watch. So I've had this conversation a few times with people. There is a lot, if you just look at the broader industry over the last year, there are a lot of major figures who are either leaving places or making moves right now. And it's a little less alarming right now when it's, it's like Dan Houser and Rod Ferguson. It's like two different studios going like somewhere else. But I think people were kind of freaked out last year because a bunch of Sony people were moving around and like some Xbox people were moving around, and then Reggie retired. There was all this stuff going on. This is like a super normal time for big figures to make moves. Like, super normal. We were right on the cusp of a console generation. Dan Houser's maybe a little bit unique in his particular situation because he's apparently been on leave for like a year. But everybody else has probably done they've probably finished whatever they were working on that was for the next generation, whether that was like if they're at a hardware manufacturer, whether that was a console or like in the case of Rod Ferguson, whatever, I don't know what the hell he was doing at the Coalition, but whatever they've got going on behind the scenes for next gen, he has probably put his stamp on it and he is off to his next thing. And so this is like a super normal time for everyone to move around, and for everybody who we haven't seen reemerge yet, I'm sure we'll start seeing them reemerge in the next few months. So it's just, it's an interesting time to watch people move, but it's also an interesting time to see people who have shaped these massive franchises like Gears and Red Dead Redemption and GTA go somewhere else on the cusp of a generation change and start shaping something new.
I also want to say that I think a lot of people are going to look at something like this and expect big changes like immediately. Mm-hmm. And people need to remember that these companies are massive ships, and just because you start turning the wheel doesn't mean that ship's going to turn all that quickly, right? These things take a lot of time to reorient. So, like, I remember I worked at Nintendo when Doug Bowser started, and I remember really seeing, even before Doug Bowser started, a lot of the changes in internal attitudes for marketing that we really didn't start to see happen until around when the Switch was hitting. And I do think Doug Bowser was a major driver in that, but he even started, what was that, a year and a half before the Switch launched, before like marketing was actually being produced for the Switch and for Nintendo games, and that used to be a major weak point for Nintendo, and they've really gotten much better at that sort of thing. We know that they did Nintendo did this major reorganization of its internal development teams and kind of let Miyamoto be a little more hands-off and put like Shinya Takahashi a little bit more directly hands-on with game development. And we're seeing where just from an attitude, like a game development attitude, a lot of Nintendo's games this generation have been very different in their approach, and a little bit like they've been hitting that wider appeal much better than they were before. And I'm sorry to stick on Nintendo. It's where I work, so I can speak from firsthand on that. But the same thing's gonna be true with like Blizzard, right? We've seen a lot of people join Blizzard, and it's really funny to be like, that we had this fucked up communications with Blitzchung, and Mike Ibarra is the GM of Blizzard, and it's not helping. And if Rod Ferguson joins and things aren't looking clean at Blizzard in the next 6 months, people are going to laugh about that. But like, it takes time, to totally reinvent a company's internal culture. So
it does. I think we are still going to be laughing at Blizzard in 6 months, though.
For sure.
So they did.
Oh yeah.
Sure.
We're not digging into their financials today, but they did have their Q4 financials today, and as my editor Brendan Sinclair pointed out today, their projections for, I think, revenue for this coming fiscal year are lower than they were for this year. What the fuck? I don't know what that means. Like, they said that they have a Call of Duty coming out, but like Rod Ferguson's going over there to work on Diablo 4. Diablo 4 ain't coming this year. It might be coming next year if we're lucky. There's a lot. I mean, there's a lot to unpack there if you feel like it, but yeah, Rod Ferguson is going there presumably to help close, get that damn game shipped, because that's something that he's very good at.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
Justin?
Yeah, kind of piggybacking off of what Reb was saying. Yeah, like Rod Ferguson has, he has this industry perception of being the closer producer. Yeah. Like, he is the person that they called in to get BioShock Infinite done because that game was just kind of spinning its wheels for a long, long time. And like also last year at BlizzCon, Blizzard made a statement that was like, oh, Diablo 4 is going to be a long time, even by our standards.
Yeah.
Which, like, the fact that they called in Rod Ferguson on that, like,
they were like, no,
nervous.
That's not acceptable.
But at least, like, he's somebody that probably can have a good impact on at least the development pipeline for a game that's probably 2+ years out.
Yeah.
If that. Although I do think Dan Houser leaving is interesting. I'm not, as attached to GTA or
That one's weird.
Rockstar. Like, especially since he had been on like an extended leave, it really kind of reminds me of the Bruce Straley situation from when he was at Naughty Dog.
Sounds like he went on leave right after Red Dead Redemption 2.
It sounded like he went on leave right after Red Dead came out, and like I remember what happened with Bruce Straley is he directed Uncharted 2, Last of Us, and Uncharted 4 back to back, and then went on leave for a year and then took off.
I just want to point out, this is my weird like conspiracy theory about this, but so Dan Houser is not known for doing a lot of interviews anyway. So it was not surprising when he hadn't like done any interviews in the last like year and a half, whatever. But the last interview he did was the one, and I do not remember which outlet it was, but it was the one where he dropped that line about, oh yeah, we were working 100-hour weeks, and then
was that was Dan?
I gotta brag a little bit. Our outlet was the one who was like, wait, why did no one call him on that 100-hour weeks thing? And we pulled that quote out. I think it was my UK editor James Batchelor, and he was like, Rockstar guy says 100-hour weeks, and that blew up. And then everybody was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And then he had to clarify. And his clarification was honestly not that great. It wasn't everybody. It was just me and the other 3 writers on our team. And that's the last we heard of that guy. That was in October of 2018. And then the IR thing that they filed said that he went on leave in spring of 2019. So that would have been, and then Red Dead Redemption 2 launched like 6 months later. So that would have been probably about when the writing would have been done. And I wonder if that poor man burnt the fuck out. Like that's my weird conspiracy theory. I wonder if he is just fucking burned out.
I wouldn't call that a conspiracy theory. That's just a decent
I mean,
theory.
that's what I was saying, like with the Straley comparison, because that dude got fried. Jeff.
I just wanted to chime in. I wish I could talk more. I wish our boy Zach was here, because Zach is our Gears of War. That man breathes Gears of War.
He does.
I'm sad that he's
Rod leaving is big for that series, because like he has been like the Gears cheerleader since the beginning,
and did wonders for 4 and 5. I mean, 4 was a good change to the franchise, and 5 was incredible. 5 was far better than I was expecting it to be last year. So
I guess I'll just add to one more thing that I wanted to say about Dan Houser is I think, and this is something like a bunch of people smarter than me are saying too, so I can't really take credit for it, but I think, so today was also Take-Two's financial call. Sorry, again, I like obsessed over these all day. And a lot of, like, I asked Strauss Zelnick about this, a bunch of investors asked him about this, a bunch of other reporters asked him about this. Everyone wants to know what's the deal with Dan Houser. He's not talking, obviously. But I think something that's interesting is his line on this is, one, Sam Houser's staying. Like, he is really adamant Sam Houser's not leaving, which I don't know what you're meant to make of that, but I feel like there's something there that we're meant to make of it. I just don't know what. But the other thing is he keeps making a point. He's like, well, Dan Houser's been technically gone since spring of 2019, and we just had an amazing year. Like, Grand Theft Auto reached all these milestones. Like, it had the best holiday quarter ever. Everything's selling great. And he's just, like, talking about all these great things that happened without Dan Houser there. And I don't quite buy that line, because Dan Houser's influence is, I mean, I don't know how much influence he has over like DLC and shit, but his thing is writing these campaigns for these big new Rockstar releases like GTA and Red Dead Redemption, and I believe Bully and some of the others. Like that's his thing, and I don't think you can point to a year where you did not have a major release and say, look, we're doing fine without him, because that's not, I mean, he does many things, I'm sure, but that's not like his big signature stamp. And
like,
so I'm very
him being gone
interested.
since spring doesn't mean that his influence is not a big driver for all that sales they're pointing to, right?
Yeah,
that's a good point, Reb.
I think it's going to, and also those things again, like that big casino update was probably the fundamentals of it were probably done by the time he left.
Yeah.
They've mostly been coasting for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
I think it would be very interesting to see what Rockstar has for the next generation and what it does without Dan Houser there.
Jeff.
That's basically where I was going. What Reb said. Like I said, I wish Zach was here to talk coalition. But I wanted to talk about Dan Houser. Like Reb said, like I'm really, again, Grand Theft Auto 5 and Red Dead Redemption 2 are like 2 of my favorite games of the generation. I have like hundreds of hours in GTA 5, and there's tons of criticisms you can read about the Grand Theft Auto series, and most of them are completely valid. But I think the success of all these games, regardless of how people feel about them individually, I think there's a very fine line that Rockstar has walked. Sometimes they've crossed over it, but for the most part, I think whether it's the satire in Grand Theft Auto and some of the more controversial elements, or whether it's the really quality dialogue and writing in Red Dead Redemption, I feel like both of these series could have gone the wrong direction in a lot of ways, more than just the writing and the gameplay as well. I mean, certainly people had their issues with tediousness in Red Dead Redemption. But the thing that I've heard, and I just have to trust, is that Leslie Benzies and the two Hauser brothers are, as much as the studio is giant and made up of tons of very talented people, the Hausers and Benzies, for the most part, for the last 2 decades, have driven the writing and the design in these games and what these games are. And like Reb said, I'm really curious to see, even if Sam sticks around, or maybe he leaves not too far long from now, how that affects.
Zelnick says he's fucking not.
Yeah, but I'm
We
curious
gotta
to see
trust Strauss Zelnick.
Because Benzie's been gone for a while too, hasn't he?
He left, I think, or midway through Red Dead Redemption 2, maybe at least a year or two before it shipped. And I honestly thought that was a bad sign. The product seemed to turn out fine, but I'm curious to see at some point these departures are going to be felt. And again, not to downplay the talented writers they have on the teams, but I just say this is the closest I see to their maybe winning streak being in jeopardy. I'm really curious to see what the next generation of games look like from them.
Same.
I am also kind of interested to see if this is connected to. There was a report recently that Take-Two is pushing Rockstar to kind of speed up their development cycles, which could be bad given what we know about the workload at Rockstar. But I almost wonder if that is, a part of it. If one, maybe like Dan didn't want to commit to this faster schedule, or
actually, what I saw some people speculation is that, and it makes sense since they were basically the founders of the company, or they're from the start, is the Hausers were responsible for a lot of the culture within the studio and within the company. It doesn't mean that they leave and it's gone, because it's now ingrained in everyone else. But maybe one or both of them leaving could be the start of a shift, a small, tiny shift.
I did see. I'm ballparking here. I cannot remember. I feel like I saw Jason Schreier tweeting or retweeting something today from someone who would know, that was basically implying that the culture there has eased up somewhat in the last year or so. For various reasons, Dan stepping away probably would have been one. Kotaku writing, after the thing we talked about with the 100-hour work weeks, Kotaku got a hold of it and went in and did, here's what crunch culture is at Rockstar, and it wasn't great. And I feel like the conversation kind of died after that, but I have seen little bits and pieces there that things may have improved at least somewhat.
The thing that makes me kind of skeptical of that report, though, is they're like, oh yeah, things have died down. It's like, yeah, because they finally shipped the game.
Right, yeah.
I mean, those reports were all from the last year and a half of development, whereas now they're in the pre-production stage, presumably for their next project, which isn't going to be when people crunch like that. So that's the one thing that I am skeptical about. That obviously I would love to be wrong and for there to be an actual shift in the culture, but we'll see.
Yeah.
So does anybody else have anything else on Hauser, Ferguson?
I believe I am out of takes.
Good luck, everybody.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, good luck with whatever.
May everybody
they end
make
up
more
doing.
good games.
Yeah.
Or sleep, whatever.
Or Hauser might just be chilling.
I hope Hauser has a nice
And
nap.
be good to the people who work under you,
Yeah.
That's all I can ask.
All right. So, up next we have hot topic in the gaming community right now about cloud gaming, streaming, that sort of thing. So, this week there's two kind of major things that we wanted to touch on. One, GeForce Now has launched as kind of a main competitor to Stadia. And Phil Spencer also made a comment that, they no longer consider, in the cloud gaming, they consider cloud gaming to be a key part of where they're competing. And they don't think that PlayStation or Nintendo is who they're competing against in that space. They think they're competing against Amazon and Google. Jeff, do you kind of want to, give some more of the nitty gritty details of some of these things? Because I know you were
Sure.
following this pretty closely.
Yeah, so I guess I'll just kind of go over both of them, and then we can talk about both because they tie together very nicely. So, Phil Spencer, from what I can tell, I actually have the source article here, so I think everyone's pulling it from this Protocol.com interview, and it doesn't say that he was talking specifically about cloud gaming. What it says is, for gaming veteran Microsoft, the big change this year is in who it considers to be its big competitors. In the fall, Microsoft will square off once again with traditional rival Sony as each introduces new game consoles, the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5. But Microsoft Spencer says he doesn't consider Sony and Nintendo his main competition anymore, largely because neither of those Japanese companies own top-end global cloud infrastructure akin to Microsoft's Azure platform. One of Microsoft's main selling points in the new Xbox will be integration with xCloud technology, meant to allow you to play the same game across a console, desktop PC, and a mobile device. So what Phil said is, when you talk about Nintendo and Sony, we have a ton of respect for them, but we see Amazon and Google as our main competitors going forward. That's not to disrespect Nintendo and Sony, but the traditional gaming companies are somewhat out of position moving forward. I guess they could try to recreate Azure, but we've invested tens of billions of dollars in the cloud over the years.
So Jeff, I just want to comment on something that I haven't seen people mention, and I'm shocked that Phil didn't mention it in that thing when talking about the Azure cloud gaming thing. PlayStation already announced that they're going to be using Azure for their future iterations of PlayStation Now. Like it seems like the sort of thing that he would want to talk about, when saying, hey, we don't think we're competing with them, because, we're actually working together on this. I don't know. It just seems very odd that has been left out of this conversation. Yeah, Derek.
Yeah. I have very cynical take. He's fully aware of that probably, but the thing is, no such service has really been announced at this point. And it is technically true that at least for the foreseeable future, PlayStation's not going to have a comparable streaming service, or at least not one that the public will know about and care about to talk about in this news cycle. So I think that it's being a touch disingenuous, because I also don't agree, and I don't believe even he agrees with the idea that Sony and Nintendo aren't competitors, because the actual internal understanding at most of these companies is that everyone is your competition. Netflix is your competition because you're competing for time, and Netflix can take somebody's time away from playing your games just as much as another game company can. So everybody is your competitor, and he knows that. It's not like a thing to be mad about, but he's just playing a PR game right now, and I wouldn't take it that seriously.
So I think I would disagree partially.
Sure.
I don't think that just because we haven't heard anything about it yet, that means that Sony's not doing any kind of cloud thing immediately at launch. I don't know. I genuinely do not know. I think an interesting... So Microsoft lost this most recent console war. I mean, for whatever, however you want to interpret that, they did. They didn't sell that many Xboxes. They have decided, and Phil Spencer and everybody there have made it fairly clear, they no longer care. I mean, they do care, but their focus is no longer to sell a shit ton of Xboxes. That is not what this is about going into the next generation. They are focused on taking Microsoft products and taking the idea of Xbox, the whole brand of Xbox, and putting it on fucking everything. Putting it on mobile, putting it on PC, putting it on the consoles because people do still want consoles, putting it on Switch if they have to. Just getting it out there. And so I think that's maybe at least some of the sense that he's making this comment in that he's not trying to compete with Sony or Nintendo to sell a bunch of consoles, because he can just put his shit on either of those consoles, and it's not a competition. You're working together at that point. But I think one of the other things that Microsoft has had to do as a result of kind of losing this most recent console war, again, the console wars are stupid, but you know what I mean, is that he has had to be, because Sony is in such an advantageous position, Microsoft has had to be super proactive about getting itself out there and getting its ideas and getting its brand out there ahead of this next console generation. For the last fucking year and a half, 2 years, every single show we have been to, somebody there has wanted to talk to our site about Xbox Game Pass. They want to talk the fuck up about Xbox Game Pass. They will not shut up about Xbox Game Pass. They take every opportunity to talk about cloud and talk about services and talk about subscriptions and talk about all these things that they're doing currently as sort of like a ramping up for when they go all in next generation. Sony doesn't have to do that. Sony already won. They are going to come out with whatever it is they're going to come out with this PS5, and it could very well have all this or it could have none of it. But Microsoft has kind of needed to sort of like get a running start at this next thing that they're going to be doing, because if both of them just showed up with none of this kind of prep time and showed off their new consoles, I think Sony would be at advantage just by virtue of the fact that so many people already have PS4s and are already pretty happy with them. But I think because Xbox has kind of worked really hard to get this good word of mouth, there are a lot of people going, they've got this cloud thing, they've got this Game Pass thing that's actually really fucking good. Like, I keep getting these free cards for it, and I keep staying subscribed because it's good. And it's got, all these things, and it's got this potential with these cloud services, right? Like I'm pretty sure they've said at this point that they're going to pair whatever they do in the cloud with streaming with Xbox Game Pass somehow.
Yeah.
So when you have all that, and we already have this idea in our head of all this cool shit that Microsoft might be doing, like, they kind of already have an advantage in my brain, and it's going to be a little bit harder for Sony to shatter that when they show up with whatever their console is, even if they're not technically competitors.
And I wanted to jump back really quickly to what we said. Yes, Sony and Microsoft did make some sort of agreement to share, for Sony to leverage some of their Azure technology. I don't want to say specifically what it was. I feel like the full scope of that agreement wasn't really detailed. But the other thing is, when you talk about competitors, someone else having the same thing that you have doesn't necessarily mean they're a competitor. Cloud gaming isn't just like buy some Azure servers and go. Right? It's how you use it, how you integrate it into your own platform. And the fact is, Microsoft has proven that they're serious about this. They've put out things that work and work well. Sony has PlayStation Now, which is, it works.
It's fine.
They just recently killed PlayStation View, which was like their TV aspect. But like, basically, they haven't shown that they're serious about this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And whatever agreements they make, whatever technology they're using, their network infrastructure, their download speeds are a constant complaint from people. And their services that they've put out to date aren't competitive with what Microsoft is offering. And that might change, but we haven't seen anything to indicate it yet. So as of right now, I think Phil's kind of on the mark that they're doing great with their single-player AAA story games, but they haven't really got to the next level in all the other categories that they need to.
See, I'm very convinced that once they start because they've been on marketing silence for a long time now. I'm still pretty convinced that PlayStation Now is going to kind of be rebranded as more of a Game Pass-like service this year. I think they're going to start.
If that did not happen.
Oh yeah, I think they're going to start talking about the future of their streaming platform soon. I think they're going to start talking more about service-based stuff for PlayStation 5. I think they're just on such radio silence right now that it's tough to say anything. But like the other end of that is Microsoft talks a lot. Like, it's not like Sony isn't aware of all the stuff that Microsoft is doing. Like, Microsoft has made it very clear for the past couple years what direction they're going. I think it'll be interesting to see how that, pans out.
I would also suggest that Microsoft is probably more aware than we are of what Sony is doing, though, too.
Yeah.
Maybe not
These
fully
companies
aware,
know
but
very well what each other is doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Jeff, do you kind of want to talk a little bit about GeForce Now? I know we talked kind of about, the Phil Spencer comments are a bit, exciting and debatable, but GeForce Now is actually really interesting, and I want to hear some about it.
Yeah, I'll just give a high-level overview. I haven't had a chance to dig super deep into it.
I did.
Yeah, so maybe Reb can elaborate.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Reb, I didn't realize you had checked it out.
Basically, GeForce Now is NVIDIA's streaming service. It's been around for a long time in beta. It just officially launched, so they have 2 tiers, a free tier and a paid tier for like $5 a month. It works on Mac OS, Windows, NVIDIA Shield devices, so that's their Shield portable gaming device. And they also have a Shield TV, which is basically like an Apple TV. It's like a stick, basically, that you plug into your TV. And it also works on Android phones. It does support DualShock 4 controllers, so PlayStation controllers, Microsoft Xbox controllers, and other third-party gamepads. Unlike Stadia, it leverages existing libraries, so you can tie it into Steam, I think Epic Library, basically some of your existing storefronts that you already own games on. I think they're all PC storefronts. You could sign into them and you have access to some of your games from those. So it has that advantage over Stadia where you don't necessarily have to rebuy every game, but it still isn't what some people want, which is like you subscribe for a certain amount a month and it gives you games. So I don't know, maybe Reb wants to expand on that a little bit.
No, I mean you mostly covered it. Yeah. So the limitations right now is so it just launched like very recently. Like Jeff said, it's been in beta for a while. It just recently launched. The limitations are kind of interesting. Whereas Stadia, you just the thing that Stadia has on it is with Stadia, you buy the game and then you just fucking play it, and that's like it. The thing about NVIDIA GeForce, as far as I understand it, is you do have queues in that one. And if you're playing, so there's a free version of it. And if you're using the free version, then you might have to wait in line to basically get access to like a server or whatever. I don't quite understand how that technology works. Then once you start playing, you play for an hour, and then you're kind of like kicked to the back of the line, and you have to like wait again. If it's busy, you might have to wait again. But then if you pay $5 a month, then you get priority in line, and you get like I think up to 6-hour sessions, and you get infinite sessions too. Like you can just keep requeuing, but like. I don't quite understand that.
I was going to ask about the sessions because like the paid one, it says extended sessions like in the bullet. I was like, what does that mean?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 6 hours.
Okay, that's decent.
But then I think they're both like 60 FPS, 1080p, like. And yeah, it leverages your library. Again, there are like some limitations, like it doesn't have every game on there. It has like a bunch of the really popular ones, basically. Like if you're trying to play like some weird ass obscure indie game in the cloud, you're probably not gonna find it. But it has all the popular ones. It has like I think it's touted like 30 free to play games and like over 1,000 more on top of that. And it works. Like I've tried it on PC. It's like perfectly functional. I mean, I don't really have too many issues with it. Also, I have a gaming PC anyway, so it sort of feels sort of stupid to have to go through that just for me personally. But also, I haven't like tried it on my phone or anything, so it could conceivably be even better. But yeah, it's interesting. I think the thing that shocked me the most about this is how under the fucking radar it flew. It has been around since I think 2017 in some form or another, and just no one has talked about it. The thing that I've learned through this whole kind of year of knowing ever since we heard about Google Stadia, there are already a lot of streaming services out there. Google Stadia is not this fucking novel concept. Actually, Google Stadia is probably like the worst of the streaming services that already exist right now, which is sort of funny given how many like horns they tooted when they announced it.
I think Stadia. Sorry, Derek, I'll let you go in a sec.
Go first, yeah.
I was just gonna say, I think Stadia's big pitch, which they didn't deliver on yet, is I just want to say this is what differentiated them and why they kind of stole the thunder. It's playing in browsers, playing on anything that supports Chrome.
Yeah.
Whereas something like the NVIDIA Shield or GeForce Now, you need either dedicated hardware or a dedicated app. What Stadia is saying is you don't need an app in theory. You can just, if you have Chrome.
Except in practice, you do.
Yeah, because it's not like they haven't finished it. It's like just a piece of, it's like a beta product. But that's the vision in the end is anything that has a Chrome browser, you can play your games on, and they definitely haven't delivered on that. But Derek, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, it's okay. I was gonna say, so I've actually played around with NVIDIA's GeForce Now service before this point, and my understanding every time I've dabbled with it is it's actually been an extremely limited service. Like you had to have an NVIDIA graphics card to do it. You had to if I'm correct, be on the same Wi-Fi network as the PC running the games. And
I don't think any of that's true anymore.
Yeah, and I think now what we're seeing is it developing into a bigger... Because, like, here's a big thing for me. I love visual novels. I don't always have time to sit in front of my computer and do visual novels and read visual novels. So I've wanted forever to be able to just pull up on my tablet and pop one of these visual novels that I want to see. They're not hard. You're just advancing text and reading, and it'd be a great way for me to kill time, downtime at work. And I've never been able to do that. And it sounds like I might be able to do that soon. Yeah. This is really, really cool. Really excited.
It seems nice.
So one thing that
for the gays.
I enjoy visual novels a lot too. But again, it's like that same thing. Is like I just don't have time to really sit down and play them. But I do like them. One thing that I was kind of impressed with when looking at GeForce Now is so Google, when they talked about Stadia. Again, I'm going with the Stadia comparison, but this is just
It's
a
the
good way
obvious
of
one. It's fine.
I mean, it's a good way of just showing how little that they delivered on the promises. Like, they announced the specs and stuff of their servers for Stadia games, and games are not running at the settings that you would expect given the specs that Google has talked about. I have a theory. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure it's running 2 instances of games on there, so it's only using like half the power for per instance, because there's not a single game that is running like it would be with that kind of CPU and GPU if they had the full power available on Stadia. Whereas with GeForce Now, somebody actually loaded up Metro Exodus, which is available on Stadia, and like you can run it with ray tracing and like higher effects and
if you
stuff.
already bought it on Steam, you just have it. I think that was the other thing. You have to pay to use ray tracing.
Yes.
On GeForce.
It's part of the paid tier, yeah.
Oh, it is part of the paid tier, but still,
$5 a month.
But like that's still a major hardware feature that is restricted to extremely expensive GPUs for a lot of people. Like,
you want to drop $800 on a graphics card? Like,
I mean, if you want a 2080 Ti, it's still like $1,200. And that is, I think, a big selling point for GeForce Now is like you're actually getting games that are running at like high-end PC settings instead of like with Stadia, they're sometimes running at lower settings than consoles, which is not what was promised. So I think that is a very, very interesting part of that comparison.
I also feel like Nvidia played it smart. I feel like Google was up on a soapbox for like 6 months talking up Stadia, and then the product was down here. But I think Nvidia is just kind of like, we'll just slide out what we have, and if people like it, great, and if they don't, no one's going to talk about it.
Yeah.
Derek, it's fine.
I'm sorry. I'm obsessing.
Derek,
it's literally
you
the
look
back of your head.
You look good.
We're looking at the
see
front
it.
of
Look,
you, Derek.
Look at it.
No one can see. No one can see that.
Derek, you look wonderful.
Someone
Why do you think
behind
I wear
me
a
can
hat?
see it.
Yeah, that was the thing, Jeff. Like so I got briefed on this mid last week. It was under embargo, and someone leaked it. I don't know who the fuck leaked it. But Patrick Klepek over at Vice got a hold of the leak and wrote honestly the article that everyone else wanted to write about it but we couldn't because we were all under embargo. But it was basically this article that was like, GeForce Now just kind of came out of nowhere, and it's basically what I want from Stadia. Like, it's not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
It's still, it's got, we mentioned a couple of kind of the issues it has. It doesn't have there's a lot of things that are missing on it. It's still sort of working its way through. But honestly, it's kind of fine. Like, if that's what you want, like if you are Derek and just want to play some visual novels on your tablet that you have on Steam already, great. If you have kind of a, mediocre computer and you want to play Metro Exodus with ray tracing, you can do that. Great, fine, good. Technology.
So, couple things just about like streaming that I think, and like kind of building off, like, because with GeForce Now, the thing that a lot of people are excited about, it's like, hey, if I own this game, I can play it. I'm sorry, Reb.
Sorry, Derek. Stop.
I can't help it. I'm sorry.
Please continue, Dustin.
Sorry, I started talking and I saw Reb mouthing stop,
No,
and I'm like, oh no,
Derek.
what'd I do?
Sorry, Jeff.
That's the thing that's exciting people is like, hey, if I own this game online, like if I own this game already, I don't have to buy it again, like I do with Stadia. But that's kind of the thing I think is going to be the biggest strength of Microsoft's xCloud and whatever future PlayStation Now takes, because if you're already bought into that ecosystem, like if you buy a game digitally and you can like use your cloud saves, like play it and extend streaming past the living room, extend the console past the living room. Like it's like you're playing your copy of the game, it's your save.
Yeah.
Like when you're out, I can grind in Destiny for a while, come home, and then run a raid on my TV. Like
yeah,
I
even
think
if
that's
GeForce Now collapses tomorrow, you still have it on your Steam account.
yeah. And I think that is I think a lot of like market analysts and a lot of the tech people are looking at this as like a replacement for, hardware at home. But I think as an extension of it is how streaming is really going to take off.
Well,
However, I know for me, a major thing, and basically right now, none of the streaming services actually exist except for PlayStation Remote Play because they're not supported on iOS. I have a Mac for my computer. I have an iPhone. Right
GeForce
now
Now works on Mac.
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
just
Oh,
not
it does.
iOS.
Okay. Just not iOS. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But that's the thing is like GeForce Now actually has an audience. Its
Yeah.
audience is people that have these libraries already and want to play their games somewhere else or don't have a strong computer. Stadia doesn't have an audience. Who is the person that wants to go buy a $60 copy of Destiny 2 that they can only play on Stadia, only with other Stadia players? Like it, right? There's no shared library. So like I feel like there's actually a market for this product.
Yeah.
Which is, again, just a smarter play.
The answer to your question was like 40 people total.
Yeah. It's like
Yeah.
the remaining population of the Stadia subreddit.
Because Stadia's not out, right? You still need the founders thing to play it, right?
Yeah.
And I think you still need to wire the controller to your phone, which wasn't supposed to be how it works. And like, there's still it still seems like it's in early beta.
I could make a fucking long list of the amount of things
Yeah.
that have gone wrong with Stadia from the beginning.
I think we have.
The
We've
summary
covered
is that
them.
that is very much an early access product that they marketed as a full launch and made people pay for as a full launch. And I believe if they aren't already paying for it, Google is going to pay for it.
What's our last topic, Justin?
So our last topic is kind of a strange one. So, a couple weeks ago, Platinum Games got some funding to be able to start doing some of their own self-publishing. And this Monday, they actually announced a Kickstarter project that was not going to be using the funds that they got from that funding. It is to bring the Wii U exclusive Wonderful 101 from Hideki Kamiya, the creator of Bayonetta, Devil May Cry, director of a couple Resident Evil games, very acclaimed director. It's a game that did not do particularly well. I mean, part of it was on the Wii U. Part
It
of
was on the Wii U.
That's all it needs. It was a Wii U exclusive.
Yeah,
Like, it
it was a Wii U
U
exclusive, and it was also kind of niche even for that. So it did
It's
not
a weird
do well.
game. It's a very weird game.
It's a game I've wanted to play for
I think
a long
it
time.
looks weirder than it actually is, to be honest with you. It plays like a Platinum game. It's dressed very weird.
Yeah.
But
So they announced a Kickstarter for a remaster project, and I believe about 55,000, or it was 55 or 66,000 to confirm a Switch port that would come out, I think, in April. And then
Done. It's fucking done.
yeah. It was very clear that this is something that they just
Like
needed.
a formality, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
they needed to get some support to be able to get it to market somehow.
Yeah, they need like the
Um,
money for like PR and
I'm
publishing.
fine
And
with
then
that.
I think it was about 500,000 for a PC port, and then $1 million for a PS4 port.
How
And
much
there's
for an
been a couple-
Xbox port, Justin?
No.
Yeah.
There's no Xbox port.
No.
That is not one of the stretch goals. There are stretch goals that are like a new 2D game and like stuff with the soundtrack. There's no Xbox.
uncancel Scalebound, and you fuckers can have Wonderful 101.
I would love
But-
if Scalebound is just an unlockable mode, like in the game.
Kamiya
It's just
blocked
one level.
Microsoft on Twitter. Like,
There's like stretch goals on there that Camille.
There
will, like,
was a
block
stretch
you
goal
on
if you paid
Twitter,
$40
or he'll
bucks.
unblock everybody that he's
But
ever blocked.
didn't he say
Get
in an
blocked.
interview that Xbox would be a stretch goal?
I have not.
I
seen
mean,
that
it's
discussed.
not
I do
there
not want to
yet,
Google
and
it right now.
it's all. I think it's all like over 1.5 million or something. Like there's still no Xbox tier on the there. So, but yeah, it's kind of an interesting project because Platinum is a small studio that has had some struggles and some not, and some games that have done very well. But then they also got big funding. recently, yet they also had to do a Kickstarter for this, but it's clear that, this port was probably mostly done because there's no way they can port it for the amounts of money that they were doing. Currently, it's well over 1 million at this point. I think it's
Absolutely.
almost at the 1.5 million mark, which was the last stretch goal that I so it is coming to Switch, PS4, and PC.
Why do so many people want this game? I mean, I don't want to diss on Wonderful 101. I have not personally played it. I understand why there might be a reasonable amount of people who would want this game. I hear it is like reasonably well regarded. The people who played it generally liked it. There has kind of been a sort of a push for a while to be like, hey, we should get Wonderful 101 on the Switch. Like, I get why there's like people who want this, but why are there like $1 million worth of people that want this? This is very weird.
It's a platinum game that nobody got to play. It's a platinum game by Hideki Kamiya with really good word of mouth from everyone who played it. Like, nobody disliked it. And nobody got to play it. And nerds will put out a lot of money for platinum games. They have really, really like put themselves in this position as like the nerd's favorite developer, whether they've totally earned it or not. Like, I'm gonna get hate mail for saying that.
This is wild to me.
And we know like gamers have a big FOMO. Like, they hate the idea of like, I have all these platinum games and there's this one that I can't play. But the other thing is, if you look at the Kickstarter, I think the actual amount of backers is like 22,000. So like, I mean, I know almost 2 million sounds like a big number, but then still there's only 22,000 people that have pledged to support this game, which like isn't a huge number.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's one of the cases of a very loud, small group of people
that are basically
and we're
pre-purchasing the game. It's 22,000 people pre-purchasing the game. Like, you know.
And
so
like,
here's my actual concern.
Go ahead, Reb.
Here's my actual concern with Wonderful 101 and kind of why I wanted to talk about it, because it's one of those things that like I can't really write an article about this like at the moment, but also like I don't want to just like go off on Twitter about it, but even though I kind of have already. So so a lot of the interviews that came out recently about Wonderful 101 when the Kickstarter launched were done back in like the fall, late summer or something like that. They were done a while back, like at an event. And in one of those interviews, one of the ones with Jimatsu, Kamiya said that, just kind of offhand comment, not really a big deal, that Dangan Publishing was helping them with the game. Didn't say specifically what they were doing, just Dangan Publishing is helping with the game. Fine. Extremely normal comment to make, whatever. However, after that interview was conducted in late November and December, it came out, I mean, this is like a weird thing to I'm not like trying to brag about this, but I did write like a pretty extensive report on this. It's over at gamesindustry.biz. It's worth reading if you're not aware of this. About how Dangan Publishing had a lot of bad stuff going on. It's a pretty long report. Some of it is bad business. They were treating indie developers very poorly. Those concerns are still not resolved. There are still 2 indie developers that are currently in like a state of conflict with Dangan Publishing who do not have full ownership of their games and are still owed money. And I have checked in with them, and they're still in that situation right now. And Jeff, do you want me to stop?
Oh, yeah, no, finish. It's fine.
Okay. And then the other big thing was that their CEO, Ben Judd, had gotten up to a lot of just really deeply inappropriate behavior. Everything from like exposing himself at like industry networking events, to kind of harassing, abusive behavior towards a former partner. Just a lot of really, really gross stuff. And so the end result of all this came out, we reported on it, US Gamer reported on it, several other people reported on it. It came out, and a bunch of people cut ties with Ben Judd. So he got ousted from Dangan. He got kicked out of a whole bunch of the other things he was supposedly in charge of. And it seemed like it had a good resolution, except for the part where Dangan was still treating its indie developers kind of badly, and that's still not resolved, right? So there's kind of just this weird like feeling about them working with Dangan right now. Partially because they're being a little bit cagey about it. So Dangan is not mentioned in the Kickstarter on their partners page anywhere. They're not listed. And well, not their partners page. There's like a little staff column where they talk about like some of the people they're partnering with, like Fangamer and stuff, to do this, whatever. They don't mention Dangan. And a bunch of people apparently asked them if they were still working with Dangan, because again, it was in the Jimatsu interview that came out. And they kind of did, it was in the FAQ on their, because every Kickstarter has their FAQ, and they were like, everybody that we're partnered with is in our staff listing or whatever. But Dangan's not there. And yet Jamatsu pointed out that Dangan was the one who sent them the press release to announce this Kickstarter. So we know for sure that Dangan is still working on that, because PRs don't just send out press releases for games they're not working on.
Yeah.
So it's just weird, like, that everybody's being sort of cagey about this. And I've been kind of poking into it, and there's a document that's gone around Twitter that some people are saying proves that Ben Judd is still working there. It doesn't prove it in a way that I can report on it as a journalist. It's not verifiable enough that I can use that. And it's just, everything's just fuzzy enough. And so, like, it's very frustrating because it seems like they have a publishing partner on this that is being very cagey and very not great in its relationships.
And it seems like they kind of know about it.
Yeah, but it also could just be that Platinum saw everything go down in December and is like, we have an obligation to them, we have a contract to fulfill, we don't want to be super loud about it because they had all this shit go down, but we got to finish what we started.
Yeah,
so that's the whole thing with Dang, and that's why people were upset about that.
Because I was also wondering if maybe this was, like, money that they needed to pay Dangan to, like, to get the code, and then they could do something with it or something, like...
Wait, what are you asking?
Like, if the Kickstarter, like, is to, like, basically, like, buy out, like, Dangan's part of the contract or something, like...
Oh, no. I don't think that quite lines up.
This stuff ought to be really clear. We shouldn't have to be guessing about this stuff, right? Like...
No, I think there's enough stuff going on that they do need they do need the money to actually, like, publish the game, to do, like, the physical copies, to do, like, some of the other things. And 50,000 is not a high number.
Yeah.
Really at all. The other numbers are reasonably high because they actually have to do ports. But 50,000 is not a high number. I don't think it's quite as direct as that, but it's just weird enough that it's got me raising my eyebrows and kind of worried that there's something else going on.
Mm-hmm. Jeff, what you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask. Reb kind of covered it. I was gonna ask about the document that went out. It was basically claimed to be some sort of official document, I think in Japanese, and it listed it was dated January 6, 2020, and it still listed Ben Judd as the director. But I'm guessing, Reb, you just couldn't verify the document.
I actually talked to, we have a contributing editor who's based in Japan. He mostly just submits an editorial every week, but he also has some experience with, like, businesses, and he's fluent in Japanese. And he's a business writer. So I taught, and he's been out there for several years, so he, like, understands Japanese business law better than I do. So I reached out to him, and kind of the conclusion that we came to is that the date on it, January 6th, is not the date it was filed. It's the date that the Osaka, like, whatever government office has a hold of that, basically pulled it. And it was done, like, at 8:30 a.m. And his conclusion was basically it got pulled immediately after the Christmas holiday. And all of the Ben Judd shit went down right before the Christmas holiday. And so, like, it is entirely possible that he is still there. And it's really hard to prove a negative. If, like, in 2 months those records get pulled again and he's still listed, yeah, that's fucked up. But it's both possible. It could be that, yeah, he is still there and this is fucked up. Or it could also be that they just are a small company filing records late and this is just kind of a holdover for when he was still in charge. It just doesn't prove or disprove anything necessarily.
Yeah, I guess my other question was actually about your article. I didn't get to read it, like, every single word, but I skimmed it pretty thoroughly, and the impression I got was that most of the bad stuff with Dangan was Ben Judd, but it sounds like you're saying there was other stuff unrelated to him that the company was kind of... Because when I read it, the vibe I got was like, Ben Judd bad, and now he's gone, and everything's good, but that's not the case.
Yeah, kind of the ongoing thing, there's two games that are sort of still in limbo. One of them is, it's from Protoculture Games. It's called Devil Engine. The other one is Fight Night. That's from Sorcerer. The problems with them are both different, so it's hard to sort of summarize them. But essentially, there's some very low-level issues that are just like, oh, they communicated very badly, or they said they would do something and then they didn't. And that's why a lot of the stuff, that's why that part was kind of short, because there was a whole big document, like, kind of exposing all their bad business shit, and a lot of that was, you know, kind of bad, like, unprofessional, really not great, but not like fucking expose them on a video game journalism site. Like, it wasn't quite to the level that I was able to do that. But some of it was actually bad. There are a lot of issues with them withholding royalties or being cagey about how much in royalties they actually owed them. And at this point, those developers are still claiming that they haven't received money that they are still owed. And then the other issue is right now, the Fight Night developers currently have full ownership of their game, but Dangan is still listing it on their page. And Fight Night has said, take it down, you're not working with us anymore. But Dangan is not doing that. Dangan has left it on their page. And it seems like a small thing, but when you're not working with someone and you're still claiming your partner on your public page, that's an issue. And then the issue with Devil Engine is that Dangan has the rights to that, and they own like the Steam page and the Switch page right now, like the eShop page. And Protoculture can't get it back because Dangan is like asking them for money that Protoculture says they don't owe them. So there's this conflict going on with who owes who money, and the developers are saying that Dangan is being shitty about it, and that conflict is not getting resolved because the developers are so small they can't like really and they don't have access to their games, so they can't really hire lawyers to go to bat for them.
So, and I guess just my last question then, like, aside from the fact that we just maybe don't like that a company with this kind of asterisk with them is associated with the product, who's at risk here then? Are we worried about Platinum and Wonderful 101, or is there like a risk to the actual people like backing the game?
I don't think anybody.
I think people just don't want to support Dangan.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, and I also think. I think the other thing is this. I presume that they are already locked into some kind of contract where no matter what, Platinum was going to have to go forward and work with Dangan. I don't think this was a thing where they could just cut ties because Dangan had a.
Yeah.
I do think that this is the kind of thing that could give Dangan a shit ton of money. And this is a good deal for Dangan to have a part of financially. And so if Dangan has not gotten its house in order and is not taking care of its developers, then this is the kind of thing that's going to give them a lot more money and a lot more notoriety and a lot more ability to continue working with more developers and potentially to continue, doing things that aren't great. And so this isn't the kind of thing where I'm like, yeah, don't fucking support Wonderful 101. Like, it's great. Go enjoy your game. It's fine. But it's just one of those things that it's annoying and very cagey and fuzzy. And it's also very difficult because so much of this is in Japan, where everything is very locked down. It's very hard to get access to anything, both because we're all the way across the dang ocean, but also, and there's a language barrier, but also just because things are much tighter ships there. And so it's just a very frustrating situation. And my worry is not for Platinum or for like anybody currently involved with the situation, but for future developers who kind of end up on board somehow through this and maybe end up in trouble as well. I don't think that's fair. But I don't think there's anything we can do about it.
Yeah, I think this is kind of frustrating too because, like, obviously I love Platinum. I don't know that I need to double dip on Wonderful 101, but like if I really wanted to, this would be a thing that would give me pause, which is not to say I'm here to shame people who decide that they want to get Wonderful 101 anyway, but like, yeah, there's that asterisk there, and that's a thing that bothers me. And it's kind of sucks too because this is the first of a thing going on where Platinum has their Platinum 4 going on, where they've got four big announcements, presumably 4 big projects that they want to talk about, and the Wonderful 101 remaster was the first of those. And it's like, okay, is it possible Dangan's tied up in all 4 of these? Maybe.
I hope not.
We don't really know. Platinum works with everybody at this point, so the common thread is Platinum, but I would really like for the common thread to not be Platinum plus Dangan Entertainment.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're right though, it sucks because they're kind of, if they made this deal before all this broke out, they're kind of locked into it, Yeah.
Because that gives Dangan more legitimacy, and that gives them more energy and more resources. And some of my concerns go away if in the next couple months I find out that Dangan has made things right with these small developers, and if the business forums from Japan come out and Ben Judd's gone, then I'll be like, you know what, good job, you got your house in order, okay, fine, we can move forward. But right now everybody is just being so weird about it. It's just enough where I'm like, guys, I don't know.
Yeah, this is just a bummer for me because like I never had a Wii U, and Wonderful 101 is one of the games I wanted to play the most on it, and so like I've been waiting for a remaster announcement for this game for a really long time, and it just sucks that there's this asterisk on it. Like, I mean, I'm probably still gonna buy the game.
You
They've
should.
already made-
By not
like-
buying it, you are not hurting Dang It.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they've already got
Yeah.
what they're gonna get out of
Yeah.
this, unfortunately.
there's-
But
Derek, what's your favorite saying? There's no ethical consumption under
Yeah,
capitalism.
there is no ethical consumption in capitalism. You own
Yeah.
shoes that were made with slave labor in
Yeah.
India or China. You know, there's no
Absolutely.
way around that. Your smartphone, people killed themselves over the working conditions in those factories. There's
Slave
you can't-
labor probably made parts that are in our video game consoles.
Yeah.
I write about it every year.
Exactly. There's only so much we can do. We can't be held fully morally responsible for every choice we make under the system.
And that's why we have so much respect for our reporters and journalists who
Yes.
continue to dig deep and expose them.
Fuck yeah.
all right. Well, on
It's
that note,
really
that's
funny on my screen because you're just doing that to the wall.
No, I'm doing it to you on the stream layout.
yeah, you're facing the complete opposite direction on my
Right.
screen. So just a few things that we want to touch on before we get going tonight. Several of us are going to be at PAX East. I am going to be there. John is going to be there. Finn is going to be there. Derek is going to be there. And Reb is going to be there. We have our own panel about where a lot of people are going to fight about the Final Fantasy
I
spin-offs.
think it's more that John's gonna fight everybody else.
Yeah, probably.
But...
What that's 6 p.m. on the
first day, so
Thursday.
Thursday. Yep.
Yeah. So what? Sorry, I have to get my calendar. I'm sorry. 6 p.m. on Thursday, February 27th. So if you're going to PAX, please
Sorry,
come by. We will all be there. I think we're gonna try to also schedule a meetup. So if you guys are there and want to see us, don't want to go to the panel or can't make it or something, we're gonna be around. We would love to say hi to any. And Reb also has a few panels that she is going to be on that she wants to talk about.
Yeah, I'm going to be on two. So one of them is with Irrational Passions, lovely people over there, the best and most annoying RPG tropes. I'm going to be on there with John, actually, instantly. Kelsey Hansen from Annapurna, Trevor Starkey, and then Alex O'Neill and Scott White are hosting that. So that's going to be a really good time. We're just going to talk about RPGs and how ridiculous they are. That is on Friday of PAX East, the 28th. It's at 4:30 p.m. in the Arachnid Theater. Come by. It should be a really good time. And then also, if you just really want to hang out with me a lot on Friday night, the other panel that I have is with Eric Van Allen at US Gamer. It's called Video Game Shark Tank, Pitch Your Dream Game. If you have ever just gotten drunk one time and had a really good dumb idea for a video game and you want to like pitch it to people who actually work in the industry, you can show up this. It's entirely for sillies. No one's getting a game published. It's not serious at all. But we've got like a Shark Tank consisting of Shane Bierwith from Modus Games, Samuel Lee from Kowloon Knights, and Randy Pitchford from Gearbox. They're gonna listen to your stupid video game pitches. It's at 9 p.m. on Friday the 28th in the Condor Theater. We might also have a fourth panelist. I'm working on that right now. I've got a couple people who are kind of interesting that I'm talking to. So, well, I think they're very interesting. So we'll see if we can get a fourth person. But yeah, that's that panel. I'll be doing both of those. So yeah, come hang out. I'll also just be around. I don't know how much I'll be with the main SDGC crew because I'm working it for my job. But if you see me running around frantically, like flag me down or shout at me or something, I'm happy to talk.
All right. Anybody else have anything we want to add for PAX or housekeeping stuff? For us. I also want to plug Zach, Maddie, and I did a review of Kentucky Route Zero. That is up on services. It's us gushing about the game. Basically, we tried to keep it as spoiler free as possible. So if you want to check that out, it's a really, really neat game that touched us all. So please check out that review. And
if you listen carefully in the background, you can hear me sitting off on the side of the highway twanging a guitar and talking about these old Kentucky back roads I live on.
All right, well, this has been SDGC. We may not... I forget the whole thing. It's like...
It's
not always poetry, and we don't
not
always
always
agree.
poetry. That's the part I forgot. Yeah, not always poetry, and we don't always agree, but we always keep it real. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you for joining us.
Be kind to each other.